Well, hello again everyone. I bet you thought we'd finished working on the Triumph, didn't you? Well, after Chaz and I did the forks, I checked the whole bike over, everything was working, and I booked it in for an MOT. Well, the morning of the MOT came along and got the bike out of the garage and the indicators had stopped working. I tried everything I could think of to get them working quickly. I sprayed the switch with some contact cleaner and some plus gas. But nothing worked. I checked all the wiring, nothing seemed to be broken. I rang the MOT station, they said bring it in anyway and we'll have a look. But they couldn't find anything in the time they had available. I think all the fuses and relays were under the tank, so they probably didn't really look at much. So yeah, now I've got to get the indicators working. So you can see everything else works on that switch. So I think the first thing I want to try is the fuse, and so I believe the fuse is under the tank. Well, as you can see, I've already taken the seat off, and it's a fairly simple job to take off the tank, but it's a bit daunting. If you're a regular on the channel, you'll remember how fragile the fuel line from the fuel pump is and the problems we had fixing that in the past. So I've got my special fuel line pliers, so hopefully I'll be able to get the tank swung up out the way and the fuel line disconnected without destroying the pump. So there we go, there's the fuse box, and it looks like number 3, 5 amp is the indicators. So I'm going to get my multimeter and just check that fuse out. What was it, number 3? 1, 2, 3. Well, it looks alright. Can't always tell why it looks though, so let's test it. Yeah, the fuse is good.
How can you tell if a fuse is good?
Well, because it's just a continuity through it, so you put the meter so that it's on ohms, and then it'll say 1 because it's complete resistance, because it's the two probes are disconnected. If you connect them together, see, it'll show 0, so there's a circuit. So you connect them together across the fuse and it shows 0, and there's a circuit, so the fuse is good.
Can you tell by the appearance of the fuse itself before you do that?
You can see through it, through the glass, well, through the plastic.
On the fuse itself?
Yeah, if that sort of coily wire in there is continuous and there's no breaks in it, then it's probably good. But it is sometimes very difficult to tell. It can just have a very, very small break in it.
Is that a bit like looking at a light bulb, if you're the same sort of thing on the old-fashioned light bulbs?
Yeah, very similar thing. Well, I'll tell you, the next suspect might be the relay. Now, this has got aftermarket LEDs on it, so the relay should look like one of these, and it should be where this is. This, I think, is the aftermarket relay for the aftermarket LEDs that were already fitted on the bike when I bought it. So I'm just going to check there is power going up to that relay, and it should be from the orange and green wires on this connector. Oops. So first I'll check it with the ignition off. Yeah, so sort of nothing. Now I'll turn the ignition on. So yeah, we're getting 12 volts to the relay. Now I've popped this out of its little rubber housing thing, and it does actually say Triumph on it, so maybe it's a Triumph aftermarket LED kit. Who knows, I don't know. Anyway, it's nicely labelled up 12 volt signal and ground. So I believe if I turn the ignition on and put the indicators on, if the relay is good, we should see 12 volt between the signal and ground. Does that make sense? I'm not particularly good with electrics, but let's give that a shot. So the ignition's on, the indicator is switched to the right. So put that on the 12 volt and that on the ground. And I'm not seeing anything there. Maybe if I put it on the signal. No, it's still seeing nothing. So, as I said before, electrics really not my favourite thing. I'm a little bit at sea with knowing what I'm doing with electrics, but I think the fact that I've not got anything at all up at that relay might indicate the switch is the problem. I think the switch is worth looking at anyway, because I did have a little problem with the self-cancelling, not self-cancelling, but the push to cancel bit on the switch a little while ago, and I fixed that just by spraying plus gas in it. So perhaps the switch is a little bit corroded, a little bit worn or whatever, so maybe I'll take the switch apart next and have a look at that. Well, I am an idiot, of course, because I just did that test with the battery disconnected, which obviously is not going to work very well, but I just reconnected the battery and I just fiddled with the connections on the relay, and in actual fact now you can see the indicators are working. So it could just have been a bad connection on that relay, or it could be that the relay is on its way out, but it's working pretty reliably now. I'm going to put it back in its little housing and see if that's still the case. I'm also going to take a photo of it in case I do need to get another part. Right, I think I've worked out what was going on, and it's totally my fault really. Because this is an aftermarket LED indicator kit, they've run a separate earth to the battery, and it's this little tiny black wire here. Now of course I've disconnected the battery to work on the bike, and that little wire had slipped down here somewhere and just got forgotten, so I reconnected the battery. I've connected that one and that one, but this one had got missed off, and when I just reconnected it I just picked it up. It was just there, but I don't think it was connected before, so I think now I've connected the earth to the indicator relay. It's obviously working quite nicely.
Now here's a really difficult question, because I listen to all these things. I know little bits but not a lot. Why did it work for such a long time and now has stopped working? Did it wriggle loose?
That is a good question, because as I said, when I put the bike away I did test it, but I didn't test it last thing as I put it away, and I think I was fiddling around trying to get everything else sorted, because it might be going away to the Peak District on this bike, and I was trying to get the USB to work on the handlebars, so I was tinkering a little bit. So I think I must have, it's hard to look back now because it's a week ago, but I think I must have disconnected the battery and reconnected it again while I was looking at that USB. So yeah, I think that's probably what happened there. Right, let's put it back together.